What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 17 for Only for the Strong. Today's guest is the man behind Nice Supplement Co. and the Cave Nutrition Store in Hamilton, Tom Kirk. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Very good indeed.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I've got a few topics to crack too, because we're going to keep this a little bit loosey-goosey today. But I know, me and you like to waffle on when we get on a video call, so we'll try
Chatty
and keep...
Cathy.
Yeah,
Chatty Cathy.
So the first thing I wanted to just start on with you is that, whenever I'm talking to just, I guess, general population people about supplements, the first thing I usually tell them is they need to have some method to their madness, because most people either just roll in a store or online and just buy whatever with no reasoning, or people are a little bit almost too conservative and they just think all supplements are bad for them, and so they never utilize it to solve any issues that they might be having. So basically what I wanted to ask you is, how does someone who's not as clued up as maybe someone like me who's worked in a supplement store for years, or you who study things extensively, how do they go about looking into what supplements might be great value for money for them?
I think it always go back to first principles. That's always my approach. Maybe a representation of engineering background, but think about, okay, what problems do I have? Looking at my health overall, that would be the first thing. So it's not really about saying, what supplements do I need? Supplements are there to assist you with your problems, or assist you with your goals, even, quite often, and me very much being the case. I don't really have any significant health problems. I'm supplementing to get enhanced performance. But what are your goals? So that would be the first step. What are your goals if you have injuries, if you have sleep issues, hormonal issues, like the list could go on. That's what you want to identify first. And then from there, then you could go, then you work back to, I have this problem I want to solve. Ideally tackle one at a time. And that might be the form of, say, you're having sleep issues. Is it waking up in the middle of the night, or is it getting to sleep? Okay, so we've got two different problems right there, which will have two different solutions. And then you might address non-supplemental options first. That's always ideally the case. Is that...
Yeah, and then what I wanted to lead on from that is that if I'm just someone, let's say I've got into the gym, I'm a young person, I've kind of seen a few stores around, there's a store in town, but I've jumped online, I follow a few people on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any things you think that can help decipher, like whether you're looking for green flags to value people's opinions, or red flags to not value them so much? Any things you should look out for, or how to find basically credible sources to take recommendations from?
Yeah, I could really easy one off the bat, which I might get slapped for because I don't know. I've done so much media over time, but are they trying to sell you? Because if someone is just shouting out in the void to try to sell you, then we've got a strong agenda at play here. So they're not even, like, this person on social media or whatever, they haven't asked you what your problems are, what your individual situation is, what your diet is, what your sleep, do you have kids, like all these considerations. If they're saying you should buy this, we'll use a hot topic, ancestral nutrition product right now, everyone should buy this. That's the first off the bat. Like, nutrition and supplementation and exercise and all of life should be individual. And so if someone is applying a catch-all, then that's a really good indication. Like, no one product is for everyone. So that's really easy. Anyone can identify that. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to say that.
Would it be fair to say, I feel like a good way to validate whether someone's recommending a supplement genuinely is just by asking them, if they say the supplement is mean or the supplement works great, ask them why. Because if they cannot give you a clear, logical, like, basically evidence-based reasoning as to why that will help you progress towards your goals, or rectify a problem, that's straight away a big red flag that they are probably just trying to sell you.
And I think, like, the other thing that you'll see, and we see this a lot because I'm vetting supplements that we want to get into the store too. And so one of the things we'll do to vet a supplement or a company is to look at their reviews. And fake reviews are everywhere. Like, everyone knows it. I don't know how many people act on it. I've definitely had a few conversations with people where they're like, I know there are heaps of fake reviews out there, but then they still believe every review they read. If the review isn't strongly personal, then it's unlikely to be as much of a real review. People tend to talk about their experiences with product in a personal way. The other one is catching those sales speeches. Like, if a person's saying, hey man, this pre-workout's mean, and you say why, and then they're basically just regurgitating what the salesman says to them, that's not their own opinion. Like, that's an opinion formed off the back of the sales guy. So I would just look for that genuine expression. So I really liked this pre-workout. Why? Well, it felt like it kicked in pretty good. The flavor was yum. Like, people tend to scatter around a lot, and we know this because every time someone comes in asking for a pre-workout, we ask them, what have you had before? What did you like? What didn't you like about it? And that's how we start to tailor our recommendations. But if I don't know, if it's a sales speech, because that person's not a salesman, or you think they're not a salesman, that would be a good indication.
So what do you think some of the more common problems you see people are trying to problem solve by using supplements, or even some of the most common goals people are trying to achieve? Obviously building muscle, gaining strength, all that thing. But is there any, I guess, common things you see people coming in the store or buying certain products online to problem solve?
Everyone is tired and struggles with motivation. That's a catch-all phrase, but which I just talked about before being bullshit. But it is a genuine underlying theme, is that we're pushing ourselves as I guess a capitalistic society. You're trying to make money, you're trying to buy the house, you're trying to have the kids, you're trying to run the business, and so everyone, as a general theme, sleep is very poor, and so people are tired. Most people are looking for stimulants as a solution to that. That is something we genuinely try to avoid. I view stimulants more as a performance enhancer, not something that should be used to recover performance, if that makes sense. So instead of starting at a deficit state, if you're in a deficit state, work on health practices to get yourself up to baseline. If you're at baseline and you want to improve your performance because you have a big training session that maybe it's with your bros and it's like your once a week chance to train with the bros, that is every guy gets excited for that. So getting to go extra hard for that session, that might be a time that it makes sense to add the stimulants on top. But if you're just trying to get up in the morning to do a training session by yourself, I'm not going to be recommending a stim pre-workout for anyone. People go for them, like we definitely sell that, but there's always a conversation in our store of, do you want caffeine in your pre-workout? And then kind of like teasing apart why the person wants caffeine. And if they settle with like, no, I just really want the caffeine in, that's cool. You're a free human. Like, we're not here to tell you how to live your life. But it may not be optimal.
Why do you think why do you think the sleep quality and also just being tired and motivation is an issue for people? Is it is it caffeine intake? Is it like a lot of screen time before bed? Is it stress management, or is it like all of the above?
I think those are all end outcome sort of behaviors. Those are all generally reflections of what I would view as the root cause. It's kind of funny, before we started this, we said we wouldn't get too personal, viewy, and political as much. But I think this is a prime case where it's like a lot of people aren't actually living the life they want to live. They may be in a job that isn't actually what they want, or they're working longer than what is ideal, or other factors, and generally there's an unfulfillment there. And then what comes out of that unfulfillment is you go home, you maybe splurge on takeaways to get that dopamine hit because you felt like shit all day because you're doing something you didn't want to do, or during work just to feel like okay throughout the day and survive the day. They're caffeinating to extreme levels, essentially chasing the high more than chasing performance. I definitely saw that a lot working in engineering. Like, everyone wants to be on a buzz because, let's face it, engineering is slow, tedious work. It's not glamorous, and that's part of it, and it's a cool part of it. But in that office environment, everyone's trying to get buzzed up. That's why the coffee maker is the most popular thing, and any office is gonna, they are going to get mad kudos points if they get a really flash coffee maker. So I think there's a lot of escapism, and the escapism is what leads to poor lifestyle habits. And so the need to escape then leads on to the poor lifestyle habits, then leads on to this self-destructive spiral of watching Netflix late, eating poor food, overstimulating, sleeping 5 hours a night, not consistent hours, so they're not getting that consistent growth hormone and recovery processes and all that. And then they still want to be Joe Rogan and get up in the morning and kick ass in the day. So they go to the gym, and then they maybe burn all their fuel out, and then the rest of the day at work is just drinking coffee and pretending to work.
So how do you find, so this is interesting, we're hashing into a bit of stuff outside supplements. So when someone comes in the store and they're telling you they're tired and they're struggling at work, you can obviously identify that maybe there is a bit of the escapism thing going on that's causing these things, but you're the guy at the supplement store, and I'm assuming it would be weird to start hashing into their whole life with them in the supplement store. You know, how do you go about this?
This is a factor, and for the record, I'm going to ask for your opinion on these problems afterwards, but you need to come by the store sometime, because quite genuinely, we get into a lot of life stories.
Yeah.
It's pretty common for someone to be hanging out for half an hour, 45 minutes, or even an hour and a half, because getting into the roots of those things is a big help. Obviously, heaps of people just want to be in and out. So, in that case of them wanting to be in and out, we try to be as efficient as we can. We address the problems like asking quick off-the-cuff things like, how much caffeine are you consuming in a day? I can really quickly categorize people based off just their total caffeine content. And if that caffeine content is all from a pre-workout, or if it's smattered in throughout the day from energy drinks and coffee and then pre-workout and so forth. So, yeah, we definitely have ways to jump into it faster. It's funny because I train the guys running the store, because I'm not actually out front much these days. I just jump out for the cool conversations, which is pretty selfish, but anyway. We train them. You're asking, have you had pre-workouts before, or whatever product they're asking for. So they might be looking for greens product or something. Have you had greens before? Are you familiar with it? And then trying to get why do you want the product? And as soon as you get into the why do you want the product, then people do that double take, and they're like, oh, actually, why do I want it? I think there's a lot of autopilot sort of purchasing behavior where they're just like, this is what I do. And so then if they've done it a lot and then you ask them why they're doing it, then they have to reconsider what they're doing. And fairly often people want different things to what they initially thought they wanted, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Your opinion, though, why do you think that people are struggling in terms of total health outcome? Because you're talking with people one-on-one probably much more than I am.
Yeah. I think you're probably bang on. And the reason why it's easy for me to identify is because I feel that so strongly in my own life. Like, I notice, even working for myself now, if I have a day that I am extremely busy, extremely physically tired, even to the point where I am quite highly stressed, but I achieve a lot and I'm super fulfilled by the amount of work I've achieved. I can be extremely physically tired, but mentally I feel absolutely on top of the world. And my sleep, my training, my digestion, everything else is better because of that. And in contrast, if I have a couple days where I'm trying to work, but I just don't feel that great, I don't get a lot done. I don't know. I just don't achieve a lot, even if I'm not as physically tired and I'm physically refreshed. Mentally, I actually feel miserable. It really gets to me. I notice I'm the happiest when I am working hard on what I love to do and on something that has purpose. And I think purpose and fulfillment kind of go hand in hand. And in the past, when I have been in jobs or employment that I knew I just don't like, I feel that a lot heavier than I noticed most people do. Or we do feel it exactly the same, but I maybe am just a little bit honest about those feelings towards that than a lot of people, because when I'm in those situations, I feel it so negatively. Like I cannot help but feel like I cannot stay here. I cannot be here. I'm not happy. I have to change. I don't care how much of a big leap the change is, or how much of a stretch it is, or how financially it might make me a little bit more under pressure. I have to change. I have to move, because to me that's the worst case scenario. Me working in a job or a position or an environment, or even just being in an environment, whether it's like you're at a gym or you're home, an environment where you're miserable is not good, because being miserable is different to, I think, pressure. There's a difference there. Pressure is good and powerful if you know how to harness it. Being in just a completely shit environment is not. There's not much you can do with that except just take it on the chin and wear it on your sleeve and just
I'm gonna jump in. I 100% agree, and a lot of what you are kind of talking about there, it's that feeling of fulfillment is that it's really hits home, I think, and the pressure. If you've got fulfillment, you can apply so much pressure to that, because you've still got that rock of the fulfillment. But if you don't have fulfillment in your job, or it doesn't even need to be job really, like it's kind of like an entire life thing, then it doesn't take much pressure to start like wanting to escape. It's that like, what else can I do to maybe survive this or get out of this? And for me, I think it comes down to it's a lot of has the person actually thought about what they want in life, or have they just followed the path of least resistance, or the path of like, that can actually be quite a difficult path. I definitely wouldn't I wouldn't say that I was 100% led into my initial path. So I did a full electrical engineering degree with honors. I grinded all through high school to get out of high school 1 year earlier, to go into uni, to grind for another 4 years, to go to work, where I then grinded in the office. One thing I learned is that I actually just seem to like to grind a bit, which is nice learning, but I realized that kind of was a path of least resistance for me. Like, it was hard, but it was just something that felt familiar and comfortable. Like, I just knew I could do that. And so it was the path of least resistance. Whilst if I stopped and thought about it for more than, I don't know, like 10 minutes, probably sober so I could remember it the next day, because you definitely, as a student, you might be sitting there on the couch with a few beers with the mates, thinking about life things, being like, why the hell am I studying this? if I thought about it for long enough, I wouldn't have done that. Like, it didn't make sense. I never wanted to be a guinea pig on the wheel in an office. It was about the exact opposite of everything I believed in. But it was something I knew I could do. And so I guess that's, path of least resistance stuff. And just people need fulfillment in their life. And from there, everything else, then we have all these other issues coming about. And they can kind of creep up to an extent that maybe they're root in, so that once someone is in a good place in life, then now you actually have to start dealing with them, because there's no doubt, like, sleep problems is like a trap that keeps you down, or overstimulation with stimulants is a trap that keeps you into that.
I think the way to problem solve, I guess at the core, with like finding fulfillment, and then at the later end of the result of that with like sleep deprivation and energy problems, I think it kind of comes down to having honest conversations with yourself. And I think what people don't realize is that some of those ways they escape, whether it's like caffeine and drugs, alcohol, fast food, that's preventing them from having honest conversations with themselves, because it's masking that feeling of not having fulfillment, and it sort of delays the process of you actually hashing out what you should be doing and the direction you should be moving. And I think that's how people get in a cycle, because they feel bad rather than having an honest conversation with yourself, because it might actually be a hard one. You end up like masking that by trying to escape through methods like I was mentioning before, and then you feel a little bit better, and then you feel bad again, and then you try and escape a little bit more, and it's just a cycle. And I see that so much in people with like weight loss of like, and not even just in clients, but in my immediate family. It's people are stuck in cycles, and they go round year after year, like feeling okay for a bit, but their eating's horrible, their health is in a real bad state, and then they recognize it a little bit and they feel bad, and they're like, oh, I got to try something, but then they don't really want to hash into it and take the proper steps, and then they fall back into the escapism thing, and then just every year, and then that's why I think I was able to get out of it, because I was always telling myself, wait, if I'm stuck in the cycle and 10 years goes by and I haven't achieved anything in my health and I'm still in the same position, that 10 years is gone. I never get that back. That's such a waste. Like, that, it's gone. And I feel like a lot of people, it's like when you're growing up and you're playing racing games or like any sort of game, and you crash or you die and you just reset and do the level again. And I do not know why, but it's almost people don't acknowledge like their mortality. And so they just think, hey, if I'm stuck in the cycle and 10 years goes by, that's all good, because I'll just get to replay the 10 years. And it's like, no, you actually don't, though. It's gone, you know? But that's a hard conversation and a hard reality to have with yourself. And I think what happens is people much rather just escape from that and pretend like it's not actually their reality, because then they don't have to have that conversation with themselves or other people, you know?
I think you get that a lot too with people when they have the kids, and kids is something I talk about a lot now because I'm obsessed with my son. But the number of times I've had that conversation with another dad where it's like, yeah, when I had my boy, then all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, I need to think about what I'm doing, because otherwise I'm going to miss out or not live the life that I want to live, such that it encourages the right life for my son, or such that I'm a part of my life with my son. And so I think that's a massive one where it's if you give people, like, you don't even need kids, but it's just something that is going to change over time, something that you can't just reset every day. Because the benefit of babies and small children is that basically every day they look different. And so if you just existed a day and then try to hit the reset button, no, you're not going back to ground zero. Now that kid is different. But you could do that with so many different things. Like, I'm struggling to think of an example right now, but if it's something that you can track over time that's changing, and then think about how you're changing with it. And if that's changed a whole bunch, it could be a tree in your garden. That would be a great case. Like, you've got a young sapling. Plant the sapling, look at it in a year's time. What have I changed in a year? Because that's changed. So that sort of mentality, just kind of keeping in mind that like time is passing. How am I changing with it?
I don't know if you get this as well, but I get really, I guess frustrated is the word, because I see people more than twice my age, and the way you're speaking now is you are thinking about it rationally. You are being honest about some of the realities of just life and time. But like, I know, like I said, people double my age, over double my age, that they're so stuck in their cycle, they don't even realize it. And this isn't even a bad thing, but we all see parents who, like, their kids are full-grown adults now, and their parents still treat them like they're 12 years old, even though they're physically in front of them, like, aged, you know?
Yeah, I can think of direct cases of full-grown adult. Yeah, and I think that is again, that's it's a whole Freudian thing, actually. It's the over clenching mother, which could be a father too. It's not it doesn't matter who it is, but essentially it's the parent figure that doesn't want to let go. But I think that comes down to it again, that as a parent they haven't adapted with the time, and they're trying to just stay in this fixed point when they knew they had a purpose. Like, it's, again, with kids, it's very easy to have purpose and fulfillment in some sense, because you're like, I know I just need to keep this sucker alive. Like, if I keep him alive, that's a pretty good win, at least in my books currently. And then, like, as he's getting older, it's a bit like, how can we develop behaviors that will be healthy for him, such that he doesn't go on circling around, such that he doesn't want to watch Netflix and eat fast food and overstimulate and have bad sleep all the time. And that's not to say that that I never do any of those activities. Like, they have their place, but it's behaviors around it. Like, if it's becoming a regular thing or a regular escape hatch, that's when it's a problem. In my opinion. Who knows? I'm just a dude.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit now, I want to kind of, because I don't think I know heaps and heaps about this, but I just want to know how the Cave Nutrition Store came to be for you over here in New Zealand. I think I know it started in Australia, and then you've obviously got your store set up here, and I think even since I've started, you're obviously growing. I think more people are becoming familiar with your brand and I guess what you represent as a supplement store. But the one thing I wanted to just preface it with is, I feel like supplements and like gym and like clothing line are all things in our country anyway that a lot of people say they want to have and aspire to have, but not many people actually execute and make it happen and then do it well. So what did that process look like? Why did you want to do it? And I guess hash into a little bit how the Cave is different from the couple of big, I guess, supplement chains that probably have a little bit of a hold, or did have a hold on the market a few years ago.
Yep. I'll speed run through the early stages, because there's a lot of stuff that it happened over a long time, and then we can go into the purpose and like why the way we think about the Cave and try to run it. Ultimately, I've been in the supplement industry about 5 years now. That initially took the form of an old website and / business on the whole, by the name of Vita Care, vitamin and care being the bird, because it's smart and cool, and I don't know, I just really like that bird. It's cheeky as all hell too, which I really like. But so that started out, and the entire purpose was pretty damn selfish. Everyone likes to say they've got this, like, I want to help the world and stuff, and I really respect that. But it was just me and another engineering mate. We were no longer flatmates. We were now living in different cities, working at engineering jobs, and we kind of wanted a project that we could just kind of work on together as an excuse to, hang out, but we're people that like to work to hang out. I'm not just going to sit around chatting once a week. I actually do that quite a lot, but the intent was that we'd have a project, and that's a good linker, because at that age were determined. Like, I want to have this guy in my life. Very sappy. So, one thing that I was really interested in at the time, and he was curious, was nootropics. Supplements or just compounds in general. You could widen the sphere. Compounds that aid in cognitive function. That could be for performance benefit at the time, or it could be for long-term cognitive health. It might just be to reduce anxiety. Like the term nootropics is kind of being co-opted into a big marketing thing, but I would, as a simple phrase, say cognitive performance. I was very interested in that because I liked to work, I liked to be smart, and liked to think clearly, because there's nothing worse than not thinking clearly. And my brain fog has got to be one of the most it's a horrible plague. So we started that, and that was kind of just an excuse for us to import at a cost-effective manner, because you couldn't get, at the time, there wasn't much on the market. You essentially had to buy straight from overseas, but then you would pay more for shipping than you would for the product. So it was just an obvious supply and demand issue. And so we thought, we'll just start a little website and tick that along. So I was doing that alongside my engineering job at the time. Started that up, ran that a couple years. I was living in Wellington, and it was just kind of like a thing I did outside of work hours. I think I did quite a lot. It was pretty long hours, and towards the end I was spending more time on it than the work, essentially. But that morphed into the Cave Nutrition Store later. So in the process of doing this, I met Lloyd, actually through social media. He's also just a dude in Aussie. He loved nootropics. It wasn't good business sense in loving nootropics at the time, if it makes it there wasn't much market demand. People didn't know even what the term meant. So it was just kind of cool to meet someone else that knew about ingredients and was passionate. And that was the point where we just I started helping him out with his online business a bit, because I had the tech savvy and he didn't. And essentially I worked out that he was being ripped off thousands of dollars by people claiming to run his website. That's a real shammy industry. But yeah, I just stepped in and helped with the website, and we formed a relationship there, talk about nootropics a lot, and just got really interested about novel ingredients. Pushing down the line, came to a point where we're in Hamilton now, and we're starting to think actually maybe a physical store would be good. The online was such that I was full time on the business now, not making heaps of money, but enough to justify being full time. And so I needed more space to store stuff. We looked around warehouses. Warehouses were about the same cost as retail spaces in Hamilton, which is quite odd. It's still very much the case. It's cheaper to get a retail space than a warehouse space. So we got the retail space, had a store up front. We got the storeroom out back, which I'm in. And that's how the physical aspect of the cave came about. That's about 2.5 years old now. So for most people, that's the maybe that 2.5. That's where they know me entering the industry a bit more, because things got significantly bigger from that point of the cave having a store here. The Cave Nutrition Store is originally the Australian brand. Lloyd over in Australia, he has the Cave Nutrition Store there. And it just made sense because we wanted to work together. We do, at the time, less so these days because importation challenges. But at the time, we'd do a lot of, one person importing something in and then, taking a chunk of that import, packaging it up with a bunch of other stuff, and then sending it to the other person. And so it was kind of a way that we could both have a lot of cool stock that maybe wasn't moving super fast, so we didn't have to hold heaps of stock. It was a really good win-win, actually, just thinking back on it now. Is really great solution, because that's how we'd avoid stock going out of date, even though nootropics weren't very popular at the time, or the other whatever supplement it wasn't very popular. So that's kind of the foundation of how we were able to do niche supplements from a starting point, even when there wasn't much demand. Over time now, though, I guess through a lot of interactions with customers and just talking with people, there is more appreciation for quality and more appreciation for some more novel herbs. And so that's kind of where we are at now, where we're still a shared brand, but we're fairly operating independently. Our ranges are a bit different now, but we have that shared ethos. Like I talk to Lloyd a lot on, we're looking for quality supplements. That includes dosages, that includes sourcing in such ways that you can trust that the product is what it says it is. A massive issue in our industry. And that's kind of where we're at now.
So you've led into having Nice Supplement Co. For someone who hasn't seen that, can you maybe just give a brief description of what that is? And then I guess the reasoning behind why you decided to make your own line.
Yeah, Nice Supplement Co. I guess it's almost a pure reflection of what we're really passionate about. So the Cave does, we're selling proteins and stuff that is to meet market demands, and they're still high quality proteins or unique in certain ways, such as Velocaway with added ingredients like Velocitol. However, Nice Supplement Co. is our mark of, I'm doing a herb that I really wanted to do. I've always wanted access to this. I can't get access to it properly, or it's not a trusted quality available here. For the most part, most of the line that we have in Nice Supplement Co. isn't stuff that you could get in New Zealand or Australia at the time that we did them. And so it's just us making the stuff that we wanted and trusting that if we want it, then other people want it too. And for most of the line, that's true. There's definitely some slower sellers, like uridine monophosphate, but I'm never budging on that. Uridine is such an integral part of what I love in nootropics. So again, fairly selfish reasons, but we like to think that, essentially, if I do what I'm passionate about and Lloyd does what he's passionate about, then we kind of we join together. That's going to make the best products ever. And if people don't want it, it's super cool. Go buy some other products. We have no interest in doing some big sales conversion speech. It's a here if you want it sort of line, and people are really appreciating it now. So over in the UK and Europe, it's really taking off. So yeah, it's definitely, there is demand, and I think awareness is coming around thanks to the likes of Joe Rogans and Hubermans and David Sinclair's and more science speakers. And I guess in the case of Joe, it's just because he's getting these science speakers on.
I feel would it be fair to say that it sounds like it's been received well, but I feel the tides are turning, especially in the last few years, and we've talked about this since I've known you from day dot. I guess it's just a fact of the industry maturing, people getting more educated, just more time going by, more things getting regulated, more research being done. But I think the consumer has just been a little bit more open-minded to the fact that not everything that's pushed to them the most is actually the best value for money. And looking at something like a single ingredient product that's sourced properly and has someone who's actually looked into this ingredient behind it can often be a lot better value for money and a lot better buy than just whatever all the 1,000 ambassadors of the one brand are telling you is good,
Yeah. I think it is very much the case. I probably attribute it to podcasts being a form that people are getting longer form information such that they can digest some more values rather than the kind of quick commercial culture of, hey, buy this. This is super cool. It does this. It'll make you awesome. Buy it now. Buy it. Buy it. Buy it. Like that sort of. Now people, they maybe feel like they have more access to information because they can slowly digest why is NMN valuable to my health over a speaking session of an hour and a half. It is definitely turning. I do agree. You talk about this much, and I've actually ummed and ahed about every time you mention it. I'm like, I don't think it's turning. It's probably dependent on my mood at the time and how pessimistic I am. But I was thinking about that a couple of days ago, because Nice Supplement Co. has been around longer than we've actually had the Cave physical store. A lot of folk think it's some new thing that we just started. It's just slowly built up, and then a bit more recently, more rapidly built up now that the tide has turned single ingredients really valued. But yeah, that's been going a couple years now, and over a couple years now, and the appreciation for single ingredients and appreciation for quality sourcing has been the big driver of change where that is picking up. And again, yeah, I think we have to thank the science speakers a bit, because they tend to have, there's a trickle down effect perhaps, where one person is saying something and then you have a whole bunch of other let's say business owners, personal trainers, they're all speaking, they're listening to that person, they're doing their own research, hopefully not just listening to the person, and then they're going on to talk about, hey, actually, single ingredients is a great way that I can have more targeted supplementation. Or, hey, actually, just paying $10 to $20 more for a product that is actually what it says it is, who would have known that that is a really good way to supplement, like actually getting products that are what they say they are. That one I can get a bit sarcastic about, because it's like, for some reason, people still make price-driven purchasing, knowing that they're kind of rolling the dice on quality. But like, $20, like,
yeah, it's interesting you say that you said nootropics weren't as common, obviously, back in the day, and you say you hum and ha about whether the tide's turning, and I do too, but I do know it definitely has, because I distinctly remember, must have been end of 2016, start of 2017, being in the store down Dunedin, and Danielle and Bailey had a supplement line at the time, and she released a nootropic, and I'm pretty sure Onward? Onward, and it was a clear container and like a red lid, and I remember the owner of the store telling me, he's like, yeah, this is a nootropic, and I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I was like, that's actually, like, that's new, it's fun. Didn't sell at all, and no one really cared, and no one really wanted it. But now, like, nootropics are like, I would say they're almost as common of a product category as pre-workout, as EAAs, like, so it's definitely changed. There definitely has been progress.
Yeah, I could say, and we are a type of business that obviously we specialize in nootropics, so it's a bit biased, but we would sell as much in terms of nootropics as we would EAAs. Pre-workouts are still probably trumping a bit above there, but actually the hormonal support herbs, they're just taking over. That's actually such a massive part of what we sell now. Which is super cool, because pretty passionate about them. However, I would like it if there was a little bit more patience and people willing to learn about them before just going, oh, I heard on this podcast I should have this, give it to me. I think a massive emphasis on, so we're having this great shift where people are getting more educated. Next step is to take a little bit of accountability and just do a little bit of self-education, because then you can separate away from all the biases. Like, if I'm talking about something, I would really like someone to fact check me before they decide that buying it is the best thing for them. Because I am literally a guy that my business is based off selling these products. So is there a greater bias? No. Like, that is as biased as it gets. I try to manage that bias by disclosing it and providing alternative options and being balanced in that way. But I'm still biased as hell. So do your own research. That's the next step. The new frontier is doing your own research.
Yeah, for sure. So before we wrap up, we're just going to crack into a couple of quick fire questions that you can just rattle off. The first one is your last meal on death row, and it's a main and dessert.
Oh, goddamn. I'd almost have to consult Laura for this, my partner. Tiramisu as dessert. I do quite enjoy tiramisu with a lot of rum. I think for the main, I would go something a little simpler along the lines of, okay, actually, I hope that my fiance doesn't murder me for this. Sean and Jamie, Sean works with me. They make these amazing venison patties, and when you put and this is wild game venison. If you put in a patty in a burger, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, they'll probably season them up really well when they.
Yeah, and the venison is it's not dry. It's
I feel like that's all people say. Venison's dry. I don't think it is. It's.
Yeah, it can be. It depends on.
I feel like if you how you cook it, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's chicken dry. Like when you have dry chicken. No.
And you just be a little intelligent about what you're pairing it with. It tends to go great with sauces and stuff anyway.
Good pick.
Yep.
One song to train or work to for the rest of your life. I don't know if you listen to music when you work.
I listen to a colossal amount of music. For the most part, if I was going to say one song to work to for the rest of my life, I would this is maybe an opt-out, but Brain FM. They do kind of binaural beats sort of things, puts one frequency in one ear, one in the other. And this isn't janky YouTube stuff. It's serious. They've got teams that work with universities and all that, doing brain stuff. The music's actually pretty sick too, though. That's the thing. It's not just weird wah wah wah. It's actually sick music. So I can get pretty into that. So, slight opt out, but that would be what I would work to for the rest of my life.
Greatest supplement of all time.
You can't do that.
And we won't say ingredient. We'll say product.
Complete product. Greatest.
And it's a matter of your opinion. It could be because of nostalgia or just
Okay, we'll put one that has the most significant nostalgia for myself and definitely others. This is a product, so we used to stock it back in the day. It's no longer on the market in that formulation, and the new company that bought it, simply put, I wouldn't trust formulation. So we don't stock it anymore. Skywalk by Myoblocks. It was a stimulant combination with nootropic. It was something special. It was a little bit too close to rave party scene type, but every now and then I was like, I feel like I need to choose something, if that describes a little bit. But I wouldn't call it healthy, but I got a crazy amount of work done off that, and frankly, so much of the business was built off that.
Nice.
So talk about stimulant use, but I tried to keep that one sensible as much as you could.
Nice. Yeah, the high school kids nowadays that get into training don't know they don't know about the free workouts.
They're just slapping themselves with 600 a gram of caffeine, and this was certainly better than that.
Favorite movie of all time?
I will go for the movie I most want to watch with my son, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Nice. I loved Lord of the Rings as a kid, so I can't wait to show him that.
Your biggest inspiration?
Oh shit, I don't really know about that one.
Doesn't have to be a person either.
Actually, I could say a person. Alexander Shulgin. He's a chemist back in the kind of 40s through 60s, 70s. He did a lot of amazing, like in terms of like groundbreaking, discovered a lot of new compounds and worked with the DEA alongside that. His definition of true genius, he did a lot of self-experimentation too, which is cool. It's kind of like that Wild West cowboy.
Because would that be coming off World War II?
Yeah. I believe he served at the tail end of it. And so, actually, no, I think he served all through. So that was when he was young, and then that was actually, fun story, that's what got him into chemistry, because someone gave him a placebo, and he was fully convinced it was a painkiller, and he had a severe injury that was very painful, and the placebo worked, but he didn't obviously know it was a placebo at the time. And so, long story short, he got into chemistry of psychoactive substances, all sorts of, like, any substances that modify brain chemistry.
Interesting. One piece of advice you would give your 10-year-old self?
Chill out just a bit. Like, it's not that important. Yeah.
Take some
It's
nootropics.
fairly highly strung. I was serious. Yeah.
You go. You're good.
I was a sort of kid that's like, I'm doing my homework, and I'm gonna do it well, and it's the best homework in the class. That sort of guy.
Right.
But yeah.
Nice. Before I wrap up, is there anyone or anything in particular you would like to plug or thank?
Family. Well, family is definitely always big. So thank for keeping me sensible. And I think in terms of plugs, I've got to do a bit of an appreciation for Lloyd. Lloyd, who, the Cave Nutrition Store over in Aussie. Without that friendship, the Cave in NZ, it's like, who even knows if it would exist? I could have gone down a very different path of kind of like sort of stuff we're doing. So, mad appreciation for that, because it's just great having a dude that is equally passionate, kind of going through the trenches alongside. So big appreciation for Lloyd.
Me. So for anyone listening, you can follow Tom and the Cave on Instagram at thecavenutritionstore.nz, and I'll put their socials in the description below. But mate, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're a busy man, and we did end up hashing into a bit of a chat, just as we usually do.
Humorously barely talked about supplements. That's cool. That's
Yeah, it's good. And obviously we'll be staying in touch, but I'll have to get you back on in the future, because there's a few things I do want to hash into. But yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Yep. Easy. Appreciate you.